I think in that instance, it should have been Boston right there. It's big on her to take the accountability, but yeah, Boston should have been there.
It's strange how the world works. Sometimes, justice arrives not in the courtroom or from a referee's whistle, but in the raw, unscripted chaos of a basketball court. Marina Mabrey walked off the floor thinking she'd won. She had made her statement, loud, physical, and unapologetic, against Caitlin Clark. The refs didn't stop her. The league barely responded. She laughed all the way to TikTok, bragging about making money off the outrage. But 3 days later, the universe responded, not with words, but with a crossover so brutal, so perfect, it felt preordained. Paige Bueckers didn't just beat Mabrey, she delivered the justice the WNBA failed to enforce. This is a story about karma. A story about what happens when lines are crossed, rules ignored, and respect abandoned. It's about how one player's arrogance turned into humiliation, and how another's loyalty sparked a movement inside a fractured locker room. And through it all, Caitlin Clark stood at the center, battered but never broken, finally seeing what real protection looks like, from teammates, from rivals, and from the game itself. It started in a game between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun, a night that was supposed to be just another step in the Fever's rebuilding season. But instead, it turned into a referendum on how far the league would allow things to go. Clark, already the face of the WNBA's next generation, had been absorbing cheap shots all season. But nothing compared to what unfolded that night. First came a poke to the eye from J.C. Sheldon, a subtle but deliberate jab that left Clark wincing in pain. And while she was still reeling, Marina Mabrey struck. The cameras caught it all. Mabrey, eyes locked on Clark, launched herself across the court with zero intention of playing the ball. She body-checked Caitlin so violently, so blatantly, it looked more like an NFL tackle than a WNBA play. Clark hit the floor hard. The crowd gasped. The arena, for a moment, held its breath. Everyone expected the officials to act. Instead, they handed out matching technicals, one for Mabrey, and astonishingly, one for Clark for pushing back. That moment said everything. The aggressor got a slap on the wrist. The victim got penalized. And the message was clear: if the refs weren't going to protect Caitlin Clark, no one would. Fever head coach Stephanie White wasn't having it. She'd seen this coming. "I started talking to the officials in the first quarter," she told reporters after the game. "We knew this was going to happen." And she was right. This wasn't a one-off. This was a pattern: dirty plays, missed calls, and a league that refused to act until the damage was done. Only after public backlash did the WNBA quietly upgrade Mabrey's foul to a flagrant 2. Too little, too late. But while the officials stayed silent, Marina Mabrey didn't. She went online and turned the incident into content. On TikTok, she posted, "Every time they comment, I make dollars." She was proud of what she'd done. Proud of the controversy. Proud of the money. In her mind, she'd gamed the system and won. But karma doesn't care about your follower count. What Mabrey didn't see coming was the storm building inside the Indiana Fever locker room. They'd watched their star get targeted over and over. They'd seen the league look the other way. And finally, someone decided enough was enough. That someone was Sophie Cunningham. As the clock ticked down in a dominant Fever win, Cunningham's eyes weren't on the scoreboard. They were locked on J.C. Sheldon, the same player who started it all by poking Clark in the eye. Cunningham saw her moment and took it. She wrapped Sheldon up and brought her to the ground with force. It was clean enough not to injure, but hard enough to send a message. The officials had no choice. Flagrant 2. Ejection. But Cunningham didn't flinch. She didn't argue. She walked off the court with the crowd roaring behind her, Fever fans chanting her name like she'd just hit a game winner. On social media, people called her a hero. Some even joked she'd just earned an all-star spot with one play. Because in that moment, Sophie Cunningham wasn't just standing up for Caitlin Clark. She was standing on business. That shift changed everything. The Fever, once criticized for letting Clark fend for herself, had drawn a line in the sand. You come for Caitlin, and now, you answer to us. Around the league, players took notice. The message was clear: this era of unchecked aggression toward Clark was over. But as Cunningham walked off to a hero's reception, Marina Mabrey was still untouched. Still unpunished. Still posting. The WNBA's correction had come too late to matter. And Mabrey, buoyed by her viral infamy, thought she had escaped the consequences. That's when Paige Bueckers entered the chat. 3 days later, the Connecticut Sun met the Dallas Wings. On paper, it was just another game. But what happened next was something straight out of a sports movie. Mabrey stepped up to guard Paige Bueckers. She was confident, arrogant, the same cocky energy she'd carried all week. But what she didn't know was that Paige wasn't here for drama. She was here for basketball. Bueckers brought the ball up the court, calm and composed. She made a subtle hesitation move, barely a twitch, but it was enough to get Mabrey leaning. Then came the crossover. Lightning quick, devastatingly precise. Mabrey's body went one way, her ankle the other. She collapsed, clutching her knee. The crowd erupted. It wasn't just a play. It was poetry. A perfect, surgical dose of basketball justice. Bueckers didn't flex. She didn't taunt. She just kept walking, expressionless, like she'd just brushed her teeth. Pure professionalism. Pure control. The message didn't need words. Mabrey had to be helped off the court. And just like that, the karma she thought she'd avoided arrived, delivered not by a whistle, but by the cold precision of a superstar who let her game do the talking. Social media exploded. Fans called it poetic justice. A cosmic balancing of the scales. The woman who had mocked Clark and bragged about profiting off a cheap shot was now limping to the locker room, her ankle possibly broken. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. On one side, Paige Bueckers, walking tall, unbothered. On the other, Marina Mabrey, injured, humbled, and silent. To be clear, no one celebrates injuries. But sometimes, the symbolism is undeniable. The league had its chance to enforce discipline. It didn't. So the game itself stepped in. That Dallas-Connecticut matchup became more than a win for the Wings. It became a message to the rest of the league. You can't bully your way to the top. You can't turn dirty plays into content and expect to walk away clean. Because eventually, someone will come along with the skills and the poise to expose you. The final score? Dallas Wings 86, Connecticut Sun 83. The worst team in the league had just handed the bullies a loss, and the basketball gods couldn't have written it better. For Marina Mabrey, this week was supposed to be a triumph. A viral moment. A badge of toughness. Instead, it became a cautionary tale. She thought she could throw cheap shots, profit off outrage, and keep walking tall. But the game doesn't forget. And karma, she always keeps receipts. For Caitlin Clark, it was vindication. A teammate stepped up. An opponent delivered justice. And the league took notice. She entered the season with the weight of the world on her shoulders. Now, she's entering the second half with something even more powerful: protection. The Fever finally look like a team that will fight for their star. Sophie Cunningham made sure of that. Paige Bueckers proved Clark has allies beyond her own roster. Together, they're building something that transcends wins and losses. This isn't just about basketball. It's about respect. It's about accountability. And it's about what happens when you mess with the wrong player and the wrong moment at the wrong time. So, do you believe in karma now? Let us know in the comments. Was Paige Bueckers' crossover the perfect payback? Should Marina Mabrey have been suspended after that foul on Clark? Smash that like button if you respect how Paige handled it, with skill, not violence. Subscribe if you believe the game should speak louder than the drama. And hit the bell so you don't miss the next moment when karma makes her move. Because in this league, she always does.